My name is Louise, and I am 56 years old. 6 months ago, I moved in with my daughter Melissa and her husband Trevor after my husband passed away suddenly. Trevor seemed like the perfect son-in-law, caring, attentive, devoted to my daughter. I felt so grateful that Melissa had found someone who loved her so deeply. But that night at 3 a.m, everything I believed shattered. If you have ever trusted someone with your child's life, you will understand what happened next. Let me know where you are watching from, and please hit subscribe, because this story will change how you see the people closest to you. I never imagined I would be a widow at 56. When my husband died of a massive heart attack last November, my entire world collapsed. We had been married for 32 years. The house we shared felt impossibly empty without him. Every room echoed with memories I could not escape. Melissa called me 2 weeks after the funeral. Her voice was gentle but firm. "Mom," she said, "you should not be alone right now. Come stay with us for a while. Trevor and I have plenty of space." Their home sat in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. It was a cozy 2-story house with white siding and blue shutters. Trevor had renovated most of it himself, Melissa told me proudly. He installed new hardwood floors in the living room. He built custom shelves in the den. He even landscaped the backyard with a small vegetable garden. When I arrived with my 2 suitcases, Trevor carried them upstairs to the guest room without being asked. He smiled warmly and said, "Welcome home, Mum. Stay as long as you need." Trevor worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative. He traveled occasionally for conferences, but mostly worked from home. Melissa was a graphic designer for a marketing firm downtown. They had been married for 3 years together, for 5. I remembered their wedding day. Trevor had cried when Melissa walked down the aisle. He whispered his vows so tenderly that half the guests were in tears. I thought then, my daughter has found a good man. Those first few weeks living with them felt like a balm to my grieving heart. Trevor made breakfast every morning. Scrambled eggs with toast, fresh fruit on the side. He always asked how I slept. He poured my coffee without me having to ask. On Saturdays, he bought fresh flowers from the farmer's market. Sunflowers for the kitchen table, roses for the mantel. Melissa would come home from work exhausted, and Trevor would have dinner ready. He massaged her feet while they watched television. He listened to her talk about difficult clients with genuine interest. I found myself relaxing into their routine. We ate dinner together every night at 6:30. Trevor would tell funny stories about his clients, the doctors who could not figure out their own email passwords, the pharmacists who ordered the wrong inventory. Melissa and I would laugh until our sides hurt. After dinner, we watched movies together. Trevor always let Melissa and me choose. He never complained even when we picked romantic comedies he had no interest in. I felt lucky. So many of my friends had horror stories about their sons-in-law. Men who were lazy, inconsiderate, disrespectful. But Trevor was different. He treated Melissa like a queen. He treated me with kindness and respect. I started to think that maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. I could heal here. I could learn to live without my husband, surrounded by people who loved me. About 3 weeks after I moved in, Melissa started feeling unwell. It began with exhaustion. She came home from work and went straight to bed. I would hear her alarm go off in the morning, and she would hit snooze 3, 4, 5 times. When she finally came downstairs, her face was pale and drawn. She barely touched her breakfast. "Mom, I just feel so tired," she said. "I do not know what is wrong with me." Then came the nausea. Every morning around 9 or 10, she would rush to the bathroom. We both thought the same thing. "Melissa, are you pregnant?" I asked gently. She shook her head. "I took a test yesterday. Negative. Trevor was worried too. He suggested she see a doctor." "Maybe it is stress from work," he said. "Or maybe you are coming down with something. You need to take care of yourself." I went with Melissa to her first doctor's appointment. We sat in the waiting room of Dr. Hernandez's office, flipping through outdated magazines. Melissa leaned her head on my shoulder. "I am scared, Mom," she whispered. "What if something is really wrong?" I squeezed her hand. "We will figure it out together," I promised. I held her hand in the waiting room, never imagining what we were about to face. Dr. Hernandez was a kind woman in her early 50s, with grey-streaked hair and wire-rimmed glasses. She listened carefully as Melissa described her symptoms. Extreme fatigue, nausea, loss of appetite, occasional headaches. "How long has this been going on?" Dr. Hernandez asked. "About 3 weeks," Melissa replied. The doctor nodded and ordered blood work. "Thyroid function vitamin levels complete metabolic panel. Let us see what shows up," she said. The results came back 4 days later. Everything looked relatively normal. Melissa's thyroid was fine. Her vitamin D was slightly low, but nothing alarming. Her iron levels were on the lower end of normal, but not anemic. Dr. Hernandez seemed puzzled. "Sometimes stress can manifest physically," she said. "Are you under a lot of pressure at work?" Melissa admitted that she had been working on a big project with a tight deadline. The doctor prescribed a multivitamin and suggested rest. "If symptoms persist or worsen, come back immediately," she instructed. Over the next 2 weeks, Melissa got worse instead of better. She lost 8 pounds. Her clothes hung loose on her small frame. Her hair started falling out in clumps. I found strands on her pillow in the shower drain on the bathroom counter. She complained of constant headaches that made it hard to concentrate. Some mornings she could barely get out of bed. Trevor stayed home from work several days to care for her. He was incredibly attentive. He made her homemade chicken soup. He brewed special herbal teas that he said would help settle her stomach. Every morning he prepared a smoothie for her: banana spinach protein powder, almond milk. He said the nutrients would help her regain strength. Melissa trusted him completely. She drank every smoothie he made. She took the vitamins he gave her. She followed his suggestions without question. "He is taking such good care of me," she told me one afternoon. "I do not know what I would do without him." I watched Trevor with admiration. He seemed tireless in his devotion. He fluffed her pillows. He brought her books and magazines. He sat with her for hours, just keeping her company. I thought this is what marriage should look like, in sickness and in health. Trevor was living those vows. But then something happened that made me pause. It was late one evening, around 10:30. I had gone downstairs to get a glass of water. The kitchen light was on. Trevor stood at the counter with his back to me, preparing Melissa's morning smoothie ahead of time. He did not hear me approach. I saw him reach for a small brown bottle on the counter. He unscrewed the cap and tilted it over the blender. Just as I stepped onto the kitchen tile, he heard me and spun around. The bottle disappeared into his pocket so fast I almost thought I imagined it. "Oh, Mom, you startled me," he said with a nervous laugh. I could not sleep, so I thought I would get this ready for tomorrow. "What was that?" I asked, pointing to his pocket. "What was what?" he replied, his face innocent. "I saw you put something in the smoothie. A bottle." Trevor's jaw tightened for just a second. Then he smiled. "Oh, that. It is just a special vitamin supplement, liquid B12. The doctor recommended it for Melissa's energy levels." "Can I see it?" I asked. He hesitated. "I already put it back in the cabinet," he said. "It is late, Mum. You should get some sleep." I took my water and went back upstairs. But something felt off. The way Trevor had jumped when he saw me. The way he hid that bottle so quickly. The defensiveness in his voice. I told myself I was being paranoid. This was Trevor, my son-in-law who did everything for Melissa. Why would I doubt him? But the feeling would not leave me. 2 weeks later, Melissa still was not improving. If anything, she was worse. She could no longer go to work. She spent most of her time in bed, too weak to do much else. Her skin had taken on a greyish pallor. Her hands trembled slightly when she tried to hold a cup. I was terrified. I called my best friend Karen, who had been a nurse for 30 years. I need to talk to you, I said. Can you come over? Karen arrived the next afternoon while Trevor was out running errands. She went upstairs to see Melissa. I watched her examine my daughter with professional efficiency. She checked Melissa's pulse, looked at her eyes, felt her forehead. After 15 minutes, Karen came back downstairs. Her face was grave. Louise, we need to talk, she said. We sat at the kitchen table. Something in Karen's voice made my stomach drop, but I pushed the feeling away. Karen leaned forward and spoke quietly. Louise, I am not a doctor, but I have been a nurse for a very long time. Melissa's symptoms, they remind me of something. What I asked, my heart racing. Karen hesitated. They remind me of poisoning. Heavy metal poisoning specifically. The words hit me like a slap. What? No. That is impossible. Karen held up her hand. I am not accusing anyone of anything, but extreme fatigue, nausea, hair loss, tremors, weight loss. These are classic signs. You need to insist on more comprehensive testing. Test for heavy metals. Arsenic, lead, mercury. I felt sick. Karen, you cannot be serious. Who would poison Melissa? Karen looked at me steadily. I am not saying anyone is. Maybe it is environmental, old pipes in the house, contaminated water. But you need to rule it out. Promise me you will push for those tests. I nodded numbly. I promise. After Karen left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator. My mind raced. Environmental contamination made sense. This house was older. Maybe the pipes were corroding. That had to be it. But then I started noticing things I had not paid attention to before. Trevor always prepared Melissa's food and drinks. Always. When I offered to make her soup, he politely declined. I have got it, Mom. You rest. When I suggested we order takeout to give him a break, he insisted on cooking. I want to make sure she gets proper nutrition, he said. He kept a locked cabinet in their bedroom. I had noticed it before, but never thought much about it. Now I wondered what was inside. Why would you lock a cabinet in your own bedroom? I started watching Trevor more carefully, the way he hovered over Melissa's meals, the way he brought her vitamins in a little cup standing there until she swallowed them all. The way he prepared her smoothies in the morning, always alone in the kitchen, never letting me help. Was I losing my mind? Was grief making me paranoid? This was Trevor, the man who cried at his wedding, the man who renovated this house with his own hands, the man who massaged my daughter's feet every night. But Karen's words echoed in my mind. Heavy metal poisoning. I could not shake it. 3 days later, everything came to a head. Melissa woke up in the middle of the night with a high fever and violent shaking. Her temperature was 103.6 degrees. Trevor and I rushed her to Providence Portland Medical Center. The emergency room doctors admitted her immediately. They ran every test imaginable: blood cultures, imaging scans, neurological exams. Trevor sat by Melissa's hospital bed holding her hand. Tears streamed down his face. "Please be okay," he whispered to her. "Please." I watched him from the doorway. He looked like a man watching his world fall apart. Could I really suspect him of hurting her? Was I truly that paranoid and cruel? 3 days passed. Melissa remained hospitalized for observation. The doctors were baffled. They found slightly elevated levels of arsenic in her blood, but just at the threshold. Not enough to definitively diagnose poisoning, but higher than normal. It could be environmental exposure, one doctor said. Old paint contaminated groundwater pressure, treated wood. We recommend testing the water in your home. Have you done any renovations recently that might have disturbed old materials? Trevor looked genuinely confused and worried. We have not done any major work recently, he said, but the house is older. Maybe the pipes. The doctor nodded. That could be it. We will keep Melissa here for a few more days to flush her system and monitor her. In the meantime, get your water tested. Trevor agreed immediately. Whatever it takes, he said. I will call someone today. Melissa was discharged 5 days later. She looked slightly better after the IV fluids and treatment, but still weak. We brought her home. Trevor carried her upstairs to bed. He tucked her in like a child. I will take care of you, he promised. You are going to be fine. That night I could not sleep. I lay in the guest room bed staring at the ceiling. Every instinct told me something was terribly wrong. It was 2 nights after Melissa came home from the hospital. I had not slept well since Karen's visit. My mind kept circling back to the same dark questions. What if it was not the pipes? What if someone was deliberately hurting Melissa? The thought was too horrible to fully consider. Yet I could not stop considering it. I lay in bed listening to the house settle, the creak of floorboards, the whisper of wind against windows, the occasional car passing on the street outside. At exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, I heard something downstairs, a soft sound like cabinet doors opening and closing. Then running water. My heart began to pound. I sat up in bed straining to hear. There it was again. Definitely water running in the kitchen sink. I quietly got out of bed and opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dark except for a faint glow coming from downstairs, kitchen light. I crept to the top of the stairs and looked down. I could see into the kitchen from this angle. Someone was at the sink. I could see their shadow moving. My first thought was that Melissa had gotten up, maybe feeling sick again. But then I heard a male voice, muttering something under his breath. Trevor. What was he doing up at 3 in the morning? I carefully descended the stairs, avoiding the 3rd step that always creaked. The kitchen came into fuller view. Trevor stood at the sink with his back partially to me. He was scrubbing something vigorously under running water. A small blender, the single-serve kind used for smoothies. He scrubbed it with a brush, rinsed it, then scrubbed it again. On the counter beside him sat a small brown bottle. The same brown bottle I had seen him hide weeks ago. My breath caught in my throat. I took another step closer. The floor beneath me groaned softly. Trevor froze. Then he slowly turned around. For a moment we just stared at each other. His eyes were wide, startled. The blender dripped water onto the floor. The brown bottle sat in plain view on the counter between us. Trevor. I said, my voice barely above a whisper. What are you doing? He blinked and his face rearranged itself into a casual expression. Oh, Mom, you scared me half to death. I could not sleep. Thought I would clean up from earlier. At 3 in the morning, I asked. I walked closer to the counter, my eyes fixed on the brown bottle. What is that? Trevor followed my gaze. He hesitated for just a second too long. Just supplements, he said. For Melissa's smoothies. Can I see it? I reached for the bottle. Trevor's hand shot out and grabbed it first. Mom, you should go back to bed. You need rest. His voice had an edge now. Let me see the bottle, Trevor. I was not asking anymore, I was demanding. We stood there in a silent standoff. The refrigerator hummed, the kitchen faucet dripped. Then Trevor's shoulders sagged. He looked down at the bottle in his hand. His jaw worked. When he looked back up at me, his eyes were different. Cold, calculated. You really want to know? He asked quietly. Fine. He held up the bottle so I could read the label. My blood turned to ice. The label read, arsenic trioxide pharmaceutical grade. My hand flew to my mouth. Oh my God, Trevor, what is this? What are you doing? The words came out as a strangled whisper. Trevor set the bottle down on the counter with a soft click. He leaned back against the sink and crossed his arms. His whole demeanor had changed. The loving, devoted husband was gone. In his place stood a stranger. You were not supposed to find out. he said calmly. His voice was flat, emotionless. I felt like I was going to throw up. You are poisoning her. You are poisoning Melissa. It was not a question. It was a statement of horrifying fact. Trevor did not deny it. He just looked at me with those cold eyes. She is worth more to me dead than alive, Mom. The life insurance policy is $2 million. Those words, those terrible words hung in the air between us. I could not breathe, could not move, could not process what I was hearing. This could not be real. This had to be a nightmare. But Trevor kept talking. The words poured out of him like he was relieved to finally say them out loud. I have debts, gambling debts, over $300,000. The people I owe, they are not the kind of people who accept payment plans. They have made it very clear what will happen if I do not pay soon. I needed a solution. Melissa's life insurance policy was the answer. He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was discussing a business transaction. Not the murder of his wife. Not my daughter. Melissa does not know about the gambling, he continued. Nobody knows. I have kept it hidden for 2 years, but the debts kept growing. I was desperate. Then I remembered the life insurance policy we took out when we got married. $2 million, enough to pay off my debts and start fresh. All I had to do was make Melissa sick, make it look natural. The doctors would never suspect, just a tragic case of mysterious illness. He smiled, slightly proud of his own cleverness. Just a little bit each day, he explained, mixed into her smoothies, dissolved in her tea. Arsenic is perfect because the symptoms look like so many other things. Flu stress, chronic fatigue. And I dosed her carefully. Not enough to kill her quickly. That would raise suspicions. No, I needed it to look like a gradual decline. A mysterious wasting illness. The doctors would be puzzled, but ultimately attribute it to some rare condition. By the time anyone thought to test for poisoning, she would be dead. And even if they did find traces, it would be too late to prove anything. I stood there shaking, unable to form words. This man, this monster, had been slowly murdering my daughter for weeks, right in front of me, while pretending to be the devoted husband, while I admired his care and attention. Every smoothie, every vitamin, every special tea, they were all vehicles for poison. How could you? I finally managed to choke out. She loves you. She trusts you. How could you do this to her? Trevor shrugged. It is nothing personal, he said. I do love Melissa in my own way, but I love myself more. And I am not going to die because of gambling debts when I have a $2 million solution sleeping upstairs. His face hardened, and now you know, which presents a problem. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was he threatening me? You cannot tell anyone, he said, stepping closer. Think about it, Mum. Who would believe you? I am the devoted husband who has been caring for his sick wife for weeks. You are the grieving widow who just lost her husband. Emotional, unstable, paranoid. If you accuse me, I will say you are having a breakdown, that your grief has made you imagine things. And he was right. That was the most terrifying part. He had built the perfect cover. Everyone saw him as the hero of this story. Who would believe that he was the villain? Trevor took another step toward me. His voice dropped lower, more menacing. Plus, you are living in this house too, Mom. You eat the food here. You drink the water. Accidents can happen to anyone. It would be such a tragedy. First the daughter, then the mother. Both dead from some mysterious environmental contamination. His words were a clear threat. If I said anything, he would kill me too, and make it look like the same mysterious illness. I backed toward the doorway, my mind reeling. I needed to get away from him. I needed to think. Okay, I whispered. I will not say anything. I promise. Just please do not hurt her anymore. Please. Trevor studied my face, trying to determine if I was lying. After a long moment, he nodded. Good. That is the smart choice. Now go back to bed, Mom. and let us never speak of this again. I turned and walked quickly toward the stairs, feeling his eyes on my back the whole way. My legs shook so badly, I could barely climb the steps. When I reached my room, I closed the door and locked it. Then I sank to the floor and pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. I had to save my daughter, but one wrong move could cost both our lives. I did not sleep for the rest of that night. I sat on my bed with my back against the wall, watching the door, terrified that Trevor would change his mind and come for me. My thoughts raced in circles. I had to save Melissa. But how? If I went to the police with no evidence, it would be my word against Trevor's. He was right. He had built the perfect cover. Everyone saw him as the devoted, caring husband. I was the grieving widow who might be having a breakdown. They would not believe me. I needed proof. Concrete, undeniable proof. As soon as I heard Trevor leave for a work meeting the next morning, I sprang into action. My hands shook as I picked up my phone and called Karen. "I need you to come over right now," I said. "It is an emergency." She heard the panic in my voice. "I will be there in 20 minutes," she replied. When Karen arrived, I pulled her into my room and locked the door. Then I told her everything. The conversation at 3 a.m, the arsenic bottle, Trevor's confession about the gambling debts and the life insurance policy, his threats against me. Karen's face went white. "Oh my God, Louise, we need to call the police right now." "No," I said urgently. "Not yet. We need evidence first. Otherwise, it is just my word against his. Think about it, Karen. He has been playing the perfect husband for weeks. Everyone believes he is a saint. The police will think I am crazy or malicious." Karen paced my small bedroom thinking. "You are right. We need solid proof. We need samples of what he is giving Melissa. We need to document the arsenic. Can you get me samples?" I nodded. "I can try. But we need to get Melissa out of this house first. As long as she is here, he can keep poisoning her. And now that he knows I know, he might accelerate his plan." "We need to move fast." Karen pulled out her phone. "I have a friend at a private lab. He owes me a favor. If we can get him samples, he can run tests quickly, faster than going through official channels. It will give us the evidence we need to go to the police." "Okay," I said. "What do I do?" Karen thought for a moment. "First, you need to act normal around Trevor. Do not let him suspect that you are planning anything. He threatened you last night, so he is watching you. Pretend you are scared into silence. Second, get me a sample from the arsenic bottle if you can. Also get a sample of any food or drink he prepares for Melissa. Put them in these." She pulled out several small plastic bags and a pair of latex gloves from her purse. "Always carry them from my nursing days. Once you have the samples, call me. I will come get them and take them to the lab. We should have results within 24 hours. Third and most important, we need to get Melissa out of this house before Trevor realizes what we are doing. Can you convince her to leave with you? Maybe say you want to take her somewhere, a change of scenery to help her recover." I shook my head. She is too weak to go anywhere, and she trusts Trevor completely. She would tell him if I suggested leaving. She does not know what he is doing. Karen's jaw tightened. "Then we will have to take her without her understanding why. Once we have the lab results and go to the police, we can explain everything. But right now, her life is in immediate danger." We spent the next hour planning every detail. I would wait for Trevor to go out. Then I would search his locked cabinet. I had seen where he kept the small key hidden in his nightstand drawer. I would take photos of everything in the cabinet. I would collect samples from the arsenic bottle and from the smoothie he had prepared for Melissa that morning, which was sitting in the refrigerator. Karen would be ready to come get the samples the moment I called. Then we would figure out how to get Melissa to safety. After Karen left, I went downstairs and made myself act normal. Trevor was in his home office on a video call. I made lunch. I did laundry. I smiled when he came out of his office and asked how I was doing. "Fine," I said brightly. "Just trying to keep busy." He studied me carefully. "You seem better today, Mom. Less stressed." I forced another smile. I think I just needed a good night's sleep. Sometimes grief makes us imagine things that are not really there. His expression relaxed. I am glad you are feeling more like yourself, he said. We all need to stay strong for Melissa. That afternoon, Trevor left to run errands. He will be gone at least an hour, maybe more, he told me. Call if Melissa needs anything. The moment his car disappeared down the street, I ran upstairs to his bedroom. Melissa was asleep in their bed, exhausted as always. I quietly opened Trevor's nightstand drawer. There, tucked under some papers, was a small silver key. My heart pounded so hard I thought Melissa might hear it and wake up. I took the key and moved to the locked cabinet built into their closet. My hands shook as I inserted the key and turned it. The lock clicked open. I pulled the door wide and stared at the contents. Rows of bottles and pill containers. I pulled out my phone and started taking photos of everything. Arsenic trioxide pharmaceutical grade. 3 bottles, 2 empty, 1 half full. Thallium sulfate. Mercury compounds. Other chemicals with names I did not recognize. Printed papers about lethal doses. Handwritten notes, calculating amounts and timing. This was worse than I imagined. This was not just one impulse. This was a carefully planned, methodical murder. I pulled out the plastic bags Karen had given me and the latex gloves. Carefully, I opened the arsenic bottle and poured a small amount into one bag. I sealed it tightly. Then I went to the kitchen and found the smoothie Trevor had made for Melissa that morning. She had only drunk half of it. I poured some into another bag and sealed it. Then I took photos of everything in the locked cabinet before carefully placing everything back exactly as I found it. I locked the cabinet and returned the key to its hiding place. My entire body was shaking. I called Karen. I have everything, I whispered. Can you come now? She arrived within 15 minutes. I handed her the samples and she left immediately. Now we wait, she said. I will call you the moment I have results. After she left, I sat with Melissa. She was awake now, sipping water slowly. How are you feeling, sweetheart? I asked, brushing hair from her forehead. Tired, she murmured. Always so tired. My heart broke. Soon, baby. Soon you will be better, I promise. Trevor came home an hour later. I was in the kitchen making tea. He came up behind me. Everything okay here? He asked. His voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp. Everything is fine, I said without turning around. Melissa is resting. Good, he said. That is good. That evening was one of the longest of my life. I had to sit at dinner with Trevor, had to make conversation, had to pretend that everything was normal. All while knowing he was a murderer sitting across from me. He asked me to pass the salt. I handed it to him. He told a story about a difficult client. I laughed at the appropriate moment. Inside, I was screaming. After dinner, Trevor went to his office to work. I sat in the living room pretending to read. Every few minutes, I checked my phone, waiting for Karen's call, waiting for the lab results that would prove what Trevor was doing. Around 9 o'clock, Trevor emerged from his office. He looked at me oddly. Mom, is everything okay? You seem tense. I am fine, I said quickly. Just worried about Melissa. He nodded slowly. You would tell me if something was wrong, would not you? If something was bothering you. Of course I lied. You know I would. He stood there for another moment watching me. Then he said good night and went upstairs. I waited until I heard his bedroom door close. Then I finally let out the breath I had been holding. My phone buzzed. Karen. I answered immediately. We have the results, she said. Louise, the smoothie sample, has extremely high levels of arsenic. Dangerously high. This is not environmental contamination. This is deliberate poisoning. And I have already contacted the police. Detective Walsh is a friend of mine. He is taking this seriously. They are getting a warrant right now. It will be executed first thing tomorrow morning. Relief and terror flooded through me in equal measure. What do I do? I whispered. Get Melissa out of that house tonight if you can, Karen said. Bring her to my place. Tell her anything. Tell her you are worried and want her to see a specialist I know. Just get her out. If Trevor realizes what is happening, he might panic. He might do something desperate. I understand, I said. I will get her out. I hung up and sat in the darkness of the living room planning. I had to get Melissa out of this house. Tonight. Before Trevor realized the walls were closing in. I knew time was running out. Tomorrow everything would explode. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed fully clothed, waiting for morning. At 6 o'clock, I heard Trevor get up. I listened to him shower and get dressed. He always left early on Thursdays for a standing breakfast meeting with clients. Sure enough, at 7:15, I heard him call up the stairs. Heading out. Be back around 10. I will pick up groceries on the way home. The front door closed. His car started. I watched from the window as he drove away. The moment he was out of sight, I ran to Melissa's room. She was still asleep. Melissa, honey, wake up. I shook her gently. She stirred and opened her eyes confused. Mom, what time is it? Listen to me carefully, I said. We need to leave right now. I am taking you to see a specialist that Karen knows. She can help you, but we need to go now before Trevor gets back. Melissa blinked sleepily. What? Why can it wait until later? No, I said firmly. It cannot wait. Trust me, sweetheart. Please, I need you to trust me. Something in my voice must have convinced her. She nodded slowly and let me help her out of bed. I grabbed clothes from her dresser and helped her change. She was so weak she could barely stand. I supported most of her weight as we made our way down the stairs. Where are we going? She asked. To Karen's house, I said. She is going to take care of you. What about Trevor? He will worry. I will call him. I lied. Do not worry about Trevor right now. Just focus on getting better. I got Melissa into my car and drove directly to Karen's house across town. Karen was waiting at the door. She helped me get Melissa inside and settled on the couch. Mom, what is going on? Melissa asked. You are scaring me. I knelt beside her and took her hands. You are going to be okay, I said. Karen is going to stay with you. I have to go back to the house for a little while. I will explain everything soon. I promise. Melissa looked frightened and confused, but she was too exhausted to protest further. Karen nodded at me. Go. We have got this. I drove back to the house. My phone showed 8:45. Trevor would be home around 10. The police were supposed to execute the warrant at 9 o'clock. I pulled into the driveway just as an unmarked police car turned onto our street. Another patrol car followed behind it. My heart hammered in my chest. A tall man in a suit got out of the first car. He walked up to me as I stood beside my car. Louise, I am Detective Walsh. Karen called me last night. We have a warrant to search the premises and arrest Trevor Carson on suspicion of attempted murder. Is he here? No, I said. He left for a meeting, but he will be back soon, around 10. The detective nodded. We will wait. We did not have to wait long. At 9:53, Trevor's car turned into the driveway. He saw the police cars immediately. His face went white. He parked and got out slowly, his expression carefully neutral. Can I help you, officers? He asked. Are you? Trevor Carson. Detective Walsh asked. Yes, why are you here? Is Melissa okay? We have a warrant to search this residence, the detective said, holding up the paperwork. And we need you to come with us to answer some questions regarding the poisoning of your wife, Melissa Carson. Trevor's mask slipped for just a second. I saw panic flash across his face. Then he recovered. Poisoning. What are you talking about? This is insane. He looked at me standing behind the police. You, he said, his voice filled with venom. You did this. I met his gaze steadily. It is over, Trevor. He tried to run. He turned and bolted for the backyard, but 2 officers were ready. They caught him before he made it 10 feet. He struggled as they wrestled him to the ground and cuffed his hands behind his back. "Let me go," he shouted. "This is a mistake. You are making a terrible mistake." Detective Walsh read him his rights while other officers entered the house. I gave them the key to the locked cabinet. I showed them where Trevor kept everything. They photographed and bagged every piece of evidence: the arsenic bottles, the other poisons, the notes about dosages, the blender he had scrubbed clean at 3 in the morning. They tested the remaining smoothie in the refrigerator. The arsenic detection strip turned positive immediately. One officer let out a low whistle. This is attempted murder, no question. Trevor was loaded into the back of a police car. He stared at me through the window as they drove him away. His expression was no longer angry. It was empty, defeated. He knew he had lost. I stood in the driveway long after the police cars disappeared. Neighbors had come out to watch the commotion. They whispered among themselves, shocked. That nice young man. That devoted husband, I did not care what they thought. I had saved my daughter's life. That was all that mattered. I drove back to Karen's house. Melissa was sitting up now, more alert. Karen told me everything she said, tears streaming down her face. I could not believe it at first, but she showed me the lab results. She explained everything. How could he? How could Trevor do this to me? I sat beside her and pulled her into my arms. I do not know, baby. I do not know. But it is over now. You are safe. She sobbed against my shoulder. You saved my life, she whispered. You saved me. That afternoon, Detective Walsh came to Karen's house to take our statements. He explained that Trevor had been formally charged with attempted murder and would be held without bail. The evidence was overwhelming. The arsenic in the smoothies, the locked cabinet full of poisons, the gambling debts that gave him clear motive, the $2 million life insurance policy, his confession to me at 3 in the morning, which I recounted in detail. It was an open and shut case, the detective said. He will go away for a very long time. Melissa was admitted to the hospital that evening for treatment. The doctors started chelation therapy to remove the heavy metals from her system. It will take time, they said, but she should make a full recovery. You got her out just in time. Another week or 2 of exposure, and the damage might have been permanent or fatal. I sat by her hospital bed and held her hand. We had won, but the real healing was just beginning. Melissa spent 2 weeks in the hospital undergoing chelation therapy. The treatment slowly removed the arsenic from her body. Each day she looked a little better. The greyish tint to her skin faded. The tremors in her hands lessened. Her appetite returned. By the end of the 2nd week, she was eating solid food again and sitting up without assistance. The doctors were pleased with her progress. She is responding very well, Dr. Hernandez told me. Her body is remarkably resilient. With proper monitoring and continued treatment, she should make a complete recovery. I stayed with Melissa every day. We talked about everything. She cried often. How did I not see it? She asked over and over. How did I not know what he was doing? You trusted him, I said gently. That is not a weakness, Melissa. He betrayed that trust in the worst way possible. But that says everything about him and nothing about you. She struggled with guilt and shame, feeling foolish for not recognizing the danger she was in. Her therapist, Dr. Kim, came to visit her in the hospital. They began working through the trauma together. Karen visited often too. She brought flowers and magazines. She checked Melissa's vital signs with a nurse's practiced efficiency. You are doing great, kiddo, she told Melissa. Your numbers look better every day. Melissa squeezed Karen's hand. Thank you, she said. Thank you for believing my mum, for helping us. Karen smiled. That is what friends do. We take care of each other. Trevor's trial was fast-tracked due to the strength of the evidence. The prosecutor explained that Trevor had waived his right to a jury trial, opting instead for a bench trial. He knows he cannot win. The prosecutor told me, his lawyer is pushing for a plea deal, but we are not offering one. The evidence is too strong. We want the maximum sentence. The trial lasted only 3 days. I attended every session. Melissa chose not to. She could not bear to see him. The evidence presented was damning. The forensic toxicologist testified about the levels of arsenic found in Melissa's blood and in the smoothie samples. A financial expert detailed Trevor's gambling debts, which totaled over $300,000. Text messages between Trevor and his bookie were entered as evidence. The bookie had threatened violence if Trevor did not pay. The life insurance agent testified about the $2 million policy on Melissa's life taken out 3 years ago when they married. Trevor stood to benefit enormously from Melissa's death. I took the stand and recounted the events of that night at 3 a.m. The prosecutor asked me to repeat exactly what Trevor had said. "She is worth more to me dead than alive," I said, my voice steady. "The life insurance is $2 million. I have gambling debts, over $300,000. They will kill me if I do not pay. Just a little bit each day in her smoothies. The doctors will never suspect. By the time anyone tests for poisoning, she will be dead." The courtroom was silent. The judge's face was grim. Trevor's defense attorney tried to argue that Trevor had been under extreme duress from his creditors, that he was not in his right mind, that he deserves leniency. But the prosecution countered with expert testimony about the premeditated nature of the crime. The locked cabinet full of carefully acquired poisons. The calculated dosing designed to mimic natural illness. The notes about lethal doses and timing. This was not a crime of passion or desperation, the prosecutor argued. This was cold, calculated, methodical murder carried out over weeks. The only reason Melissa Carson is alive today is because her mother discovered the truth just in time. The judge delivered the verdict swiftly. Guilty of attempted murder in the first degree. Guilty of aggravated assault. Guilty of fraud related to the insurance policy. The sentencing came a week later. The judge gave Trevor 15 years in state prison. Given the severity and premeditated nature of your crimes, the judge said, "I see no reason for leniency. You systematically poisoned your wife over a period of weeks with the intent to kill her for financial gain. You deserve every year of this sentence and more." Trevor stood silently as the sentence was read. He did not look at me or at the prosecutor. He simply nodded and let the bailiff lead him away. I called Melissa from outside the courthouse. "It is done," I said. 15 years. She let out a long breath. "Good," she said quietly. "That is good. How do you feel?" I asked. She was silent for a moment. "Empty," she finally said. "I do not feel happy or satisfied. I just feel empty and tired." I understand, I told her. The anger and satisfaction will come later, or maybe they won't. Right now, you just need to focus on healing. She agreed. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby." Melissa was released from the hospital after 2 weeks. She moved into a new apartment with me. We had both agreed that we could not stay in that house. Too many terrible memories. We found a bright 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Portland with large windows and hardwood floors. It felt like a fresh start. Melissa filed for divorce immediately. Her lawyer expedited the process given the circumstances. The divorce was finalized in 60 days. She never spoke to Trevor again. She never visited him in prison. She wanted nothing from him except her freedom. Slowly, gradually, Melissa began to rebuild her life. It was not easy. She had nightmares frequently. She struggled with anxiety and trust issues. Every time she ate or drank something, she had to fight the urge to panic. Dr. Kim helped her work through the trauma. They met twice a week. Melissa also joined a support group for survivors of domestic violence. Hearing other women's stories helped her feel less alone. She realized that she was not the only person who had trusted someone who turned out to be dangerous. She returned to work part-time after 2 months. Her boss had been incredibly understanding. "Take all the time you need," he had said. "Your job will be here when you are ready." Melissa started slowly working from home 3 days a week. The routine helped. Having projects to focus on gave her a sense of purpose. Her colleagues welcomed her back with warmth and compassion. No one pushed her to talk about what happened. They simply let her know they were there if she needed anything. Melissa also started making new friends. She joined a yoga class at a studio near our apartment. There she met Amy, a woman about her age, who worked as a teacher. They bonded over coffee after class one day and soon became close friends. Amy knew about Melissa's story, but never treated her like a victim. She just treated her like a friend. They went hiking together on weekends. They tried new restaurants. They laughed together. I watched Melissa slowly come back to life. About 8 months after Trevor's sentencing, Melissa started dating again. She was nervous about it. "How will I ever trust anyone again?" she asked me one evening. "How will I know they are not hiding something terrible?" "You will not know for certain," I told her honestly. "None of us ever really know what is in another person's heart, but you cannot let fear stop you from living. You are stronger now. You know the warning signs, and you will listen to your instincts." She nodded slowly. "You are right. I cannot let him take that from me too." She met someone named Jack through Amy. He was kind and patient. He knew about her past and did not run away from it. They took things very slowly. Coffee dates, walks in the park, long conversations, no pressure, no rushing. I watched Melissa smile more, laugh more. The light was coming back into her eyes. One evening, she came home from a date and sat with me on the couch. "Mom," she said, "I think I'm going to be okay. I think I'm actually going to be okay." I hugged her tightly. "I know you are, baby. I always knew you would be." As for me, I had my own healing to do. I started seeing a therapist as well. I carried guilt about not seeing the signs sooner. About the weeks Melissa suffered while Trevor poisoned her under my nose. My therapist helped me understand that I could not have known. Trevor was a master manipulator. He fooled everyone, including doctors and friends. The important thing was that I listened to my instincts when it mattered most, that I acted to save my daughter when I finally understood the truth. That took courage, my therapist said. Do not diminish that. I also joined a support group for family members of crime victims. Hearing other people's stories put my own experience in perspective. I was not alone in my feelings of guilt, anger, and fear. Other people understood. We supported each other through the difficult days. I made friends in that group, people who became important parts of my life. We met for coffee. We checked in on each other. We celebrated small victories together. 1 year after Trevor's sentencing, Melissa and I decided to have a small celebration. Not of what happened, but of survival, of resilience, of still being here. We invited Karen and Amy and a few other close friends to our apartment. We made dinner together. We laughed. We shared stories. At one point, Karen raised her glass. To Louise, she said, who refused to ignore her instincts, who saved her daughter's life. Everyone clinked glasses. Melissa looked at me with tears in her eyes. To the best mum in the world, she said. I could not speak. I just smiled and blinked back tears. The anger I felt toward Trevor faded over time. I cannot say I forgave him. I do not think I ever will. But I stopped letting him occupy space in my mind. I stopped giving him power over me. He was in prison. He could not hurt us anymore. That was enough. I focused instead on building a good life with Melissa, on being present for her recovery and her happiness, on creating new memories to replace the terrible ones from that house. Melissa thrived. 2 years after the poisoning, she was healthier and happier than I had seen her in years. She got a promotion at work. She and Jack were talking about moving in together. She had stopped having nightmares. She could eat and drink without panic. She smiled easily and laughed often. She had not just survived, she had truly healed. Watching her happiness became my greatest joy. Sometimes I think about that night at 3 a.m. The moment I saw Trevor at the sink scrubbing that blender, the moment he confessed what he had been doing, the moment I realized my daughter's life was in my hands, I think about how easily I could have ignored my instincts, how I could have talked myself out of my suspicions, how I could have been too afraid to act. If I had made any of those choices, Melissa would be dead. That knowledge stays with me. It reminds me to always trust my gut, to never be silent when something feels wrong. I learned that evil does not always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like a devoted husband making smoothies. Sometimes it wears a mask of kindness and care. Sometimes it is hiding in plain sight, and only instinct can see through the disguise. I learned to trust those instincts, to honor them, to act on them even when it is terrifying. I also learned that love is the most powerful force in the world. A mother's love can move mountains. It can see through lies. It can give you courage when you have none left. My love for Melissa saved her life. That will always be the thing I am most proud of. Now, several years later, Melissa is engaged to Jack. They are planning a small wedding in the spring. She asked me to help her choose a dress. We spent a wonderful afternoon trying on gowns and laughing together. When she found the one she loved, she stood in front of the mirror and cried happy tears. "I am getting married, Mum," she said. "I never thought I would feel safe enough to try again. But I do. I feel safe. I feel happy." I stood behind her, my hands on her shoulders, looking at our reflection. "You deserve all the happiness in the world," I told her. "And I will be right there beside you, every step of the way." Sometimes people ask me if I regret anything about that time, if I wish I had acted sooner or done something differently. The truth is, I did the best I could with the information I had. I trusted when it was reasonable to trust, and I acted when action was necessary. That is all any of us can do. We cannot predict the future. We cannot read minds. We can only pay attention to the signs, trust our instincts, and have the courage to act when we must. On a warm evening last month, Melissa and I sat on the balcony of our apartment, watching the sun set over Portland. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. Melissa turned to me and said, "Mom, thank you for trusting yourself. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for saving me." I took her hand and squeezed it. "Thank you for surviving," I said. "Thank you for being strong enough to heal." We sat in comfortable silence watching the light fade. Two women who had walked through darkness and found their way back to the light. Together. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones hiding the darkest secrets. But I learned that a mother's love is the strongest weapon of all, and I would do it all again without hesitation. Have you ever had to trust your instincts about someone you loved, even when everyone else believed in them? Share your story in the comments. If this story moved you, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story. May you always have the courage to trust yourself, and may you find peace in whatever battles you face. Blessings to you all.